My name is Raul Andrews. I'm the executive director of the American Psychiatric Association Foundation. And it is our privilege to partner with Athletes for Hope and some of the elite athletes in the United States and around the world to talk about a serious but very important conversation about being whole and well, about being human beings, and about being able to fulfill our promise and our passions and our purposes in whatever way we see fit. It's my privilege to be here as a moderator, but it's not about me. It's about our elite athletes who we see as human beings and who we need to thank, not only for entertaining us in the arena, but we need to thank them for their courage and their championship outside the arena long after the lights go down and those DMs turn on and people didn't feel like they got what we need. So here's who's joining us today, and we're going to let you hear from them in their own words about who they are. But first, and certainly not least, from the National Football League, we got Chris Paul from the Washington Commanders, my homeboy from H-Town. And Chris, welcome to the living room.
Thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor to be here today and to be a part of this discussion.
And then we're going to go to the left coast to the west coast, the way we know it. Let's go out west, and we're going to talk to my main men in the world of track and field. We got one of the renowned Paralympians, Isaac Jean Paul, high jumper, long jumper, training for the 2024 Paralympics in Paris, France. Yes, Isaac, welcome to the living room.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey, thank you. Glad to be welcome. I need to carry you in my back pocket the way you give that introduction was. Hey, that was A1, you know? Hey, I'm honored. I'm grateful to be here. And, hey, let's get this show on the road. Let's get this party started.
Well, thank you for jump starting us, Isaac. We really appreciate you being here. And then, obviously, we got some blocking, some tackling, and some jumping. We're going to need somebody to tote that rock.
Hey.
So what we bring into the living room is one of the ultimate rock toters from the Los Angeles Chargers. Got a new head coach coming in.
Yes,
who said you need to stay humble and stay hungry. And we don't know nobody hungrier or more humble than the Josh Kelly, running back for the LA Chargers and a Bruin. Josh, welcome to the living room.
Wow, man, you really a pro.
Yeah, ain't he? I'm trying to tell you.
You pro. Nah, thank you, though. Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm really just excited to be here with you guys and, talk about a serious topic, especially for us in the Black community. It's a blessing, man. So thank you for having me.
So one of the reasons why I was so grateful that you gentlemen were willing to join me in this conversation is because there is a notion of man up, hide the pain, a notion that in my day we used to call John Henryism, where maybe I'm not working hard enough, maybe I'm not striving hard enough if I really want to make things happen, even if I'm not 100%. I still got to go, and I got to try to go 200, 300% to try to just get half of what I might otherwise be entitled to. So we like to talk about, in my world, being whole and well, but what the American Psychiatric Association Foundation is really doing is working with elite athletes like you to redefine sports medicine. So yes, hips, knees, joints, and ankles, but also some mind matters. And that's redefining 360 whole health. So when we talk about mental health, Chris, what comes to your mind, first of all?
I think really the importance of mental health being just as important as our physical health. And that's when I look at it holistically in our overall health, I divide it right down the middle of having your physical health on this side and your mental health on this side. And playing the game that I play and Josh plays as well, majority of it is mental.
Yeah.
And that's a huge aspect of the game. And so when you are taking care of one side of your health and you're kind of neglecting the other, it causes a big problem. Some that you might not even be privy to.
Right, absolutely. And just to speak on that, I think it's key because how I see mental health is very similar. You have the physical side, then you have like the mental side of it. And I think it's kind of like your overall, I think it's kind of like your state of emotional and psychological well-being. And like, I think it's interesting that Chris, you spoke about like when it comes to playing football, we always go after, our bodies after practices or games. We're the first ones to go to the massage tables, treatment rooms, but then we're not really just paying attention to, our mental health, like our mental, because I really feel like so much of what we do, so much of sports, and Isaac, you can relate to this as well. It's really all up here. And like, we got to take care of, our mental, our health, our brain. And that's something that's for me, playing for 4 years now, that I'm starting to see like, wow, like I got to really take care of just my mentality, man. Like it's really key. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
Isaac, let's hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think mental health is like a connection, right? Being an athlete, I mean, even being a kid, let's even strip away from being an athlete, right? I know you guys remember the nursery song, "My hip is connected to my thigh bone." You know, that little song, I don't know the words. But if your body has all these connections, right? How can you not realize, or how can you not understand that your mind is also connected to your body? You know what I'm saying? And how important it is to train your mind just like you train your body. Your mind is the muscle. And if you have muscles along your body, you also have muscles up here, right? So this year, and it's crazy because I always self-reflect. That's like one of my strongest tools to like help me understand certain things. And during the hardest times during practice, and if you guys ever ran track before, I mean, you don't even have to run track. Running in any sport is a punishment. So try doing the sport that is a punishment for an actual sport, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like I came up with this phrase, trick the mind, feed the body, right? So when you're out there and you're thinking about, man, I gotta do a full 100-yard suicide drill. It's like, yeah, you can train your mind to be so negative and be like, I don't want to do these 100-yard suicides. But if you trick your mind to think more positive, you're going to actually be feeding your body what it needs to be better. So mental health, not in my wildest dreams, I thought it would play a huge role in my performance. When I was a kid, I just went out and played. But as I became an adult and became a professional and experienced certain things within my profession, mental health has probably been the biggest like thing for me. So mental health it's important.
So Isaac, a couple quick questions for you. When I introduced you in the living room, I talked about Paralympics. And there might be one or two people out here who haven't heard of Paralympics before or don't know anything about it. Bring us up to speed on what the Paralympics is all about.
Oh, the Paralympics is the next best thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a space for people with disabilities to perform at the highest level athletic wise. So for me, I'm a Paralympic track and field athlete, and you may be asking, well, what's your disability? I'm visually impaired. I'm legally blind. I have detached retinas in the back of the eye, which limits my vision. I pretty much have 20% of my vision. And you may be asking, well, how are you able to do what you're able to do? Well, God, you know what I'm saying? I can only explain it. It's
Amen.
God, you know what I'm saying? But the
Isaac, I don't even like to jump off the couch, and you long jumping and high jumping. I don't
there
know.
you go.
I don't know. I mean, woo. You airborne.
The Paralympics is filled with so many different types of disabilities. You got amputees, you have arm deficiencies, and muscular deficiencies like cerebral palsy. So it's a vast variety of individuals with disabilities that's within the Paralympics.
Well, no, thank you for sharing that with us, and we wishing you the best on your training on the road to the Paralympics later this year in Paris.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we're going to make sure we give our folks who are listening to the living room your contact information online so we can follow your journey. But let's stay with the conversation. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about invisible injuries. We're talking about your mind driving what your body feels. Your body going to feel what your mind tells it to. when you say you can go, when you say you can't go. So why is it important, though? Here's a collection of strong or appearingly strong Black men. We all here in the virtual living room. Why is it important for Black men to talk about mental health? Let's start again with you, Isaac.
Man, it's important because it's not talked about at all. We're not seen to have any weaknesses, right? We're seen to be the object of abuse, and we're supposed to deal with it. I know I had a lot of different coaches in my lifetime, whether it be basketball coaches, football coaches, track coaches. And the one thing being a professional athlete now is that a lot of athletes have this like inferiority trait, right? Where you have to listen, you have to be inferior to your coach. And it's so important because you want to never disappoint your coach. You never want to see yourself as someone that is being defiant or whatnot. And I feel like being able to express your thoughts, being able to understand your thoughts first and then express them is important. And the only way that you can do that is by having a safe space to be able to do those things. And I think mental health hasn't been expressed in the male black community is because we never really had a safe space, and it wasn't. We can't show vulnerability, and expressing your mental health is showing your vulnerability.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, let's go to the ground game. Isaac gave us a little bit of the air game, but I want to open some holes. So, Chris, we coming right through you. Why should Black men, why must we talk about mental health?
I think why we should talk about it, and a lot of the reason why it's not talked about currently, is one word that Isaac mentioned earlier, which is weakness. We view it as a weakness. We view it as a weakness, and often our community across the diaspora, right, has a tendency, as anyone does, to have this kind of like hyper masculine type of thing. And so whenever what is viewed as a weakness is introduced to the environment, it's kind of, there's an aversion to it. We don't want to be around that. We don't want to show that weakness. We don't want to be vulnerable, as Isaac mentioned. And so I think it's very important to get over that and realize that mental health and mental health challenges and going through rough times mentally is not a weakness, but perhaps just a normal part of the human experience.
All right, the hole is wide open.
Yeah, man. It's a great hole. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, so I think it's key what you guys have talked about. And the biggest thing, for me, I keep thinking about is just like trauma. I feel like a lot of the Black men and women, who live in America, like Chris stated, the diaspora, I feel like there's just a lot of trauma that we deal with. And then it's kind of like really tough and difficult to open up to someone about the traumas that you face from when you were little and you grew up without a dad, or you grew up without a mother, or, you grew up in an environment where there was drug dealers, gangbangers, and you grew up in these types of environments. And that's kind of the case for a lot of us Black men and women in this country. So to have that space to be vulnerable and just expose everything that you've been going through is really difficult and it's really tough. And I just feel like for a lot of us as Black people, we compensate for those, like that you said, the weakness, we compensate for it. We start doing other things, so I think that's the biggest thing, just being vulnerable and just being able to just express how we, our traumas and our difficulties.
So Josh, let's stay on the ground. Let's stay on the ground, because this vulnerability thing, it's perfectly acceptable for you to wait on your line to help you gain yards, right? Yeah, but absolutely. Somehow, when it comes to our mental health, asking for help is a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. What you think about that?
Yeah, That's a great question, man. I think honestly, like it's just difficult. I feel like because even for me, like I'm speaking just personally, like expressing how I feel, expressing just the difficulties and the things that I may face is definitely not easy because there's a lot of barriers to break down, and there's a lot of components. There's just so much deep, and in the way you kind of feel a little insecure to even express or to feel like I'm comfortable expressing my insecurities, my fears, my traumas, my doubts, all of it. So that's something that's big for me. I think that's a reason why there's a lot of like hesitation.
So, do you believe, Chris, that you have permission in the world that you occupy as a professional athlete to just say, my head not right, I can't do it today? Do you feel like you have permission to do that?
In full transparency and honesty, there is a lingering discomfort in doing that. And again, that is in just staying on the ground, and using and being able to speak from the perspective of an NFL player.
Hmm.
Um, Not only internally but externally, there is a pressure to that is put on you to, whether you call it, be perfect, be strong, be ready to go at all times. Um, the main thing is the main thing. You're contractually
Yeah.
obligated to do a job. That's why you're here. All those kind of factors in there, like, make it uncomfortable to feel as though really admitting something that's normal, to feel as though that looks optically like it's inhibiting you from doing your job.
Mm,
What you think about that, Isaac?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also feel like, man, to be honest, we don't ever get the time to, cater to our mental health because it's always something else that comes right after whatever trauma we may face.
hmm.
It's like we have to have this keep on keeping on mentality. And I think as men, in a whole, like we're fixers, right? So like we're going to, even if it's a cheap fix, you know what I'm saying? Like a little quick patch up type thing. We're
Yeah.
gonna try to find whatever it takes just to fix it just enough so we can get on to the next thing. And
Hmm.
so I think just really acknowledging the time that we actually take to pay attention to our mental health, to accept whatever trauma we have. Um, I think that's where it starts. It's really like having that time, having that grace period to really understand what's going on with yourself.
Yeah.
So, Josh, there's something called
Hmm.
hide the pain technique. Tell us what that is and how you might have seen it.
Yeah. This is a great question. I've seen it firsthand. My first year in the league, great guy, man. His name was Jesse Lemonnier. Great guy, amazing player, awesome dude. I mean, this guy was like one of the most positive people I've ever met. Like he just had a certain energy to him. He was really joyful. Like it was really like amazing to see this on the daily, even through training camp, through practices, the season. He was consistent. And last year, I got a call from our player development saying that he took his life away,
Mm.
and that was really eye opening for me because I really didn't expect that. Just based off how he was acting, how his demeanor was, and that kind of hurt. It really did hurt because I felt like I was with this guy the whole season, and I wish I could have asked him, like, how are you doing? You know, I really wish I could have reached out more, maybe took some of these conversations I had with him more seriously. So I think when it comes to hiding the pain, like, some ways people cope with hiding the pain is like we talked about previously, is like we don't want to let people see us down. We don't want to admit this weakness. We don't want to be vulnerable. So yeah, unfortunately, I had to, kind of see that firsthand.
So, Chris, there's a statement: check on your strong friends. But when we look at you, you don't need nobody checking on you. You good. Does anybody ever check on you, Chris?
In fact, I would like to say I'm actually pleased within my own community, just of people around me, that in terms of the progression in in how I've sort of made my community preview to the importance of mental health. And so I've definitely seen improvement from that aspect, but I definitely relate to the aspect of checking in on your strong friends, because in a lot of scenarios, I feel like I am the strong friend,
Mm.
right? And I always make it a point to be there for people in general, and especially people in my circle. And oftentimes I find that I'm not necessarily doing everything I need to do to take care of myself. And I'm not taking care of myself in the same fashion that I would other people. And I came to that realization in, I think it was the fall of 2020. And at this point in time, I was still in college, and I was probably the head of every organization you can think of. And if y'all remember the summer of 2020 and that whole year, like COVID,
Mhm.
the issues within our country, everything, right?
Yeah.
So I was there for a lot of people and I wasn't taking care of myself. And as the football season went on, I'm a starter, I'm a captain,
Mm.
everything in between. I noticed that I was getting really irritable, like
Mm.
more irritable than usual. My conversations would be very short, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just getting the closest thing I can think of to being burned out.
Mm.
And so that, having a few weeks over that Christmas break to kind of like reflect and think about why this was happening, is when I, within my own life, truly started to understand the importance of making sure you're watering your grass and taking care of your mental health as much as you're being there for others.
Mm.
So thank you for sharing that. I want to turn to Isaac because I heard something from Chris Isaac I've never heard before, and I'm sad to say never even thought about. Athletes getting burned out, particularly professional athletes, elite athletes getting burned out. Isaac, is it possible for an elite athlete to get burned out?
Hell yes. Man, hey, listen. You know how
I
many
just
times I thought of excuse my language, I'm sorry, but
no, you good. We in the living room,
Yeah.
Isaac. We in the
okay.
living room.
We in the living room. All right, for sure. Yeah, man, it's definitely possible. There've been so many times where I thought about hanging up the spikes. Especially in my sport. My sport is all about performance, individual performance. And if you don't match up to the best mark that's in the world, you
Mhm.
aren't considered. Now, I'm in a unique situation. I'm the best at what I do. But with the Paralympics, with the lack of education and representation that there is, we don't get paid. We don't get our just due, right?
Mm.
And so like knowing that and being the best at what you do and you're not being recognized, that being burnt out heightens a little bit, right?
Mm.
I want to also talk about because you had asked Chris or not Chris, Joshua a question about
Hide the
hiding
pain.
the pain. I
Yes.
want to kind of share my little take on that as well.
Mm.
For me having a disability, I don't necessarily hide my disability, but you don't see it, right? You just
Mm.
look at me as anyone else. With that being said, I know my disability. I know how it limit gives me limitations, and I know how it could often be perceived. And so, therefore, I developed over time a huge chip on my shoulder. We had used the word early on in this conversation about compensating, right?
Mm.
I'm big on that. Since I can't see, especially in my everyday life, like I'm not able to drive, so I have to rely on people. The one thing that I correlate being a man to is being able to have your independence, being able to drive, right?
Mm.
So since I
Mhm.
don't do that, I try to compensate in other ways. Within
Mm.
sport, I try to do the same thing, right? So I pride myself on working hard. Like I'm super talented. I'm cold as hell. I ain't gonna lie to you. If I had 20/20 vision, I'll probably be in the NBA or NFL. No cap. I can't lie to you. But you know, I'm in track and field, right? So
Right.
I pride myself on hard work. This past year, I was in a new training group, and it's been very tough trying to educate my coach on my disability. This is his first time ever dealing with someone that's visually impaired. And me, I have to be vulnerable enough to express my visual impairment. I don't want it to be used against me. I don't want it to be a factor. So finding a way to communicate with this guy was very tough with me, for me. So I decided to man up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to allow my disability to play a role. I had to practice in pitch black darkness. I had like lights blinding me, but I still had to continue the practice. I wasn't going to make an excuse. This one practice, my coach wanted me to do a workout. I wasn't feeling it. I was just tired. I was burnt out, right? You see what I'm saying? But I knew I had to get this workout done. He told me I had to do if you guys are familiar with track, it's all in meters. So I had to run 300 meters and then run the stadium stairs of UCLA. So Josh, you know what them stadium stairs look like at the track.
Them stairs is different.
It's different. So imagine running 300 meters and then immediately after run them stairs. Crazy, right?
That's ridiculous.
Imagine me walking them stairs, Isaac. I mean,
I was this close. But after the 300, the rep of the 300, I threw up. And in that moment, I was telling myself, Isaac, give up. But I was just like, hell no, I'm not giving up. I'm going to finish this workout, right? After throwing up, I had to go rinse my mouth out, drink some water, collect myself a little bit. You feel me? It's 6:00 in the morning. You got me running out here and it's wet, cold outside. It's not the best element. You feel me? So right before I ran the stairs, my coach called me over and he was just like, I need you to do the workout. I looked at him. I was like, yo, coach, I just threw up. You know what I'm saying? He was like, it sounds like you making excuses. What I need you to do is do the workout. So now, mind you, I'm 31 years old. I'm a grown ass man, right? We all grown ass men. And I feel like you can communicate with me, to me, as such, right?
Right.
So I said, look, you're not about to do that to me. I'm not no I'm not no high school kid. And as many things I could have made an excuse for, this right here, putting in work, it's not one of them. Especially the mental talk I had to give myself in the midst of throwing up and wanting to quit. I still got up and did the workout. You know what I'm saying? So, like, these are the things that, yes, feeling burnt out, feeling like you have to overcompensate and have a chip on your shoulder plays a heavy role in mental health, and also just having a disability and feeling like you need to compensate because you feel as if your disability is going to be used against you. So I hope I answered that question, sir.
Well, you did. I got to stop throwing you right down the middle. I'm gonna have to start like brushing you back a little bit. But let's get close to second base. Two-part question for all three of you gentlemen. So obviously, by most estimations, you've made it. But it's a lot of people looking at you and looking up to you, wanting to be where you are. And they don't know some of the things that you know, and they haven't experienced some of the things you've experienced. So starting with you, Josh, what do we need message to send to our up-and-coming rising stars or hope to be stars, learning everything, that's the first part for you, Josh. We're going to come around to everybody. What do we need to make sure they know?
This is good, man. Honestly, I would say to them, man, because this is me. I would tell me if I was, little, I would say, look, like, understand the journey with what you're going to go through. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be, some really trying moments. It's not going to be easy. But I would say, like, if you're feeling something, if you're not okay, if you're dealing with some sort of anxiety, if you're dealing with anything that's like that's got a hold on you. First, just man, I would say get right with God, because my faith is the biggest thing, and that just keeps me grounded. I would say that, and then also don't like bottle this all up and then eventually like lash out and just
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. Yeah, no
Yeah.
fact. And that's something that I deal with now is like sometimes it just all bottles up inside of me. And then it gets to that point where then I just like, bam, I snap. So seek it. When you know you're not okay, talk to someone, man. Like just talk to someone and allow yourself to just go through whatever you're going through, because your feelings are valid at the end of the day. Just really express them. I think that's the big thing.
Chris, let's hear from you. What message we need to send to those up and comers?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the message that would need to be sent is that it's okay to not be okay. And I think for you to like truly, really understand that, it starts with community and identifying a person or people around you that you can be vulnerable with. And Josh said it with just allowing everything to kind of just bottle up, right? And that's called the bottlenecking effect. And when you do that, it's a form of suppression.
Mm.
And no matter how many man ups or it is what it is or effort we ball that you say to yourself or others, that's a form of suppression, and it's just going to end up coming out in ways that you didn't necessarily intended to, or ways that you didn't want it to come. So I think it's very, very important to identify a community of people around you that you're okay being vulnerable with.
Thank you, Chris. And Josh talked a little bit about what he would tell himself as well. Could share with us, Chris, roll the clock back 10, 12 years. What are you telling young Chris?
I'm telling young Chris, honestly, exactly everything that I just said. And I'm telling him to really, 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 really make sure that throughout life he should take a holistic approach. And when I say holistic, I'm talking about things that are outside of what you consider your main thing. Like for example, all of us here, we are professional athletes,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's more. There's a lot underneath the helmet.
Right.
There's a lot more than the times that we make or
Right.
how far we jump, right?
Right.
There's there's a lot more. So, for example, a lot of people hate on gamers. A lot of my teammates are gamers, love Madden, 2K, everything. I look at that. That's an outlet. That's a way to unplug for those guys. You guys talked about enjoying screenwriting at the beginning of the call.
Yeah.
That's an outlet. That's a way to unplug. I like music. That's my outlet. That's my way of unplugging. So when I say taking that holistic approach, water all the grass and all the pots in the garden.
Mm. That's good.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go to Isaac. Isaac, two parts. What a message are we sending to those up and coming Isaacs, these Olympians, Paralympians? And what would you have told young Isaac?
Absolutely. Take your time. Man, whatever you're doing.
When you run 4.3, it's easy to say that, you know.
For sure. But even with that, like I learned with track and field, everything is about patience and finishing, right? Like it's not about who can get to the finish line quicker. It's about who can hit their phases effectively. You know what I'm saying? Your drive phase, your push phase, your top acceleration, all of that is cumulated into one thing, into that finish. So taking your time with your mental health, taking your time with your profession, and knowing that God has the time. He's the timekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't rush through things. I used to rush through things trying to get to my destination faster than what I was supposed to be, right? But God told me to sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride. You know what I'm saying? And I remember at the top of this year, when I first started with my new training group, I told God, I was like, I welcome all challenges, right?
Yeah.
In my head, I thought it was just gonna be challenges on the track, right? But man, this man has been making me work, and I can't thank him enough because I saw the places where I was weak at. You know what I'm saying? I was weak in communicating. I was weak in really articulating myself and telling people my needs. You know what I'm saying? And being able to differentiate my needs versus my wants. And
Yeah.
he slowed everything down. He made me hate this sport. I have to go back to a place where I thought I'd never go to again. But he made me stronger. He took me away from that place to make me stronger. So now the next time around, I can have a better outcome. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I would tell the
Wow.
kids, like, take your time. Let every experience you face be that experience. Welcome all challenges, no matter what they look like, no matter how tall, how short they are. Welcome them. Understand what challenge is placed in front of you and try your best to overcome them. One more thing, right? I like to say I live with no sight, with no limitations. And the reason why I say that is because I recognize my limitations. And just because they are limitations, that doesn't mean that I can't overcome them. And if you don't know your limitations, how can you ever overcome them? So, to all the kids out there and adults, don't be too prideful to understand your limitations. Don't be fearful of your limitations. Face them head on, understand what they are, and find a way to overcome them. So that's why I'll give to a younger version of myself, because that's why I tell myself today and every day. Like, it's a constant just self-discovery journey, you know what I'm saying? So I would tell my younger self those things, but I'll also retell myself those things today, just because sometimes I forget and I have to remind myself, like, look, this is what the mission is. This is what the journey's about. Keep going.
So Isaac, I'm gonna ask you a question, and only for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna ask our other two compadres in the living room. Just bite your lip hard. But you're also a coach, Isaac,
Yes, sir.
and you even though you go through the ladders yourself, you also have the ability to direct other athletes under your charge. How has your focus on being whole and well, being a complete human being on and off the track, how has that influenced you as a coach when you're dealing with athletes under your charge?
Yeah, man.
And what message do we have for these coaches?
Yeah, same. Okay, so that's a great question, right? I got into
Bite your
coaching.
lip, Josh. I'm talking to Isaac. Yeah.
I know.
For sure.
I'm just talking to Isaac.
I got into coaching for one reason and one reason only. For first and foremost, I was coaching athletes with disabilities, right? And within that space, I felt like there wasn't enough people that understood individuals with disabilities entirely, right? Let alone athletes with disabilities. And me being an athlete with disability, right? It wasn't until 2017 I became an athlete with a disability, right? My entire life leading up to that point, I was competing against people just like y'all. I went to a Division II university, went to USA Nationals, competed against the best in the world, able body wise, and I also won a national title in college as well in the high jump, jumping 7'3". So like I wasn't considered someone with a disability. I was just considered someone that was athletic, an athlete. 2017, I became that blind athlete. I was no longer that great athlete. So I saw that. I recognized what was going on, and I saw the treatment that I was getting. And I was just like, you know what? If there was going to be a coach for these people, for people like me, it has to be people like me. It has to be me to coach someone with a disability, because they can identify with me. They can understand that, oh, he shares the same struggles I may share. And at times it's difficult, because even them, they'll see me as someone without a disability because of my presentation and how I navigate. But I understood that I had a certain experience, and I felt like my struggles and my experience were relatable, and that's how I was able to connect with the athletes I was coaching at the time that I was coaching.
So we need some relatable coaches.
Yes.
On and off the field, we need some relatable coaches. All right. Well, all of you have been involved with an organization called Athletes for Hope. Chris, how did you get involved with Athletes for Hope, and why did you do so?
Absolutely. As I'm have the privilege of being here and having this great discussion with everybody here, mental health has always been an important subject to me. And I got involved with Athletes for Hope actually through the draft process. So at the Senior Bowl, Jason actually came and spoke to all the participants at the Senior Bowl. And I remember going up to him afterwards, and I was just so intrigued um, at the many, many opportunities that Athletes for Hope provided for athletes like ourselves with platforms to use those platforms for causes and interests that we're interested in. And so I went up to Jason, and I remember filling out a form, and we've had a very strong connection ever since. And now I get to be on this awesome panel and have this discussion with this great group of guys.
Right.
Thank you, Chris. How about you, Josh? Athletes for Hope, how'd you get involved? And what does it
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, man. So I got connected with Athletes for Hope my rookie year. I connected with Chris, and it's a blessing, man, because I was always looking for ways to serve, to serve the kingdom, to serve God. And I felt like this was another avenue to do that, to serve, our people, and I just think it was cool because the biggest thing I learned from it is that like athletes has such a big platform and a lot of influence, and like a lot of kids, a lot of just even grown adults look up to athletes. And it's been special to work with Athletes for Hope, the hospital visits, or through the panels that we're doing now. It's amazing, man. And for me, it's like I love to do it. I like to learn from other people, and I've learned from you two a lot. Just hearing you guys and like talking, it's been a really big blessing for me. So, yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to doing more work for sure.
Isaac, coach?
Yes, sir. I was introduced to Athletes for Hope through, what was the organization? Foundation Fighting Blindness, right? I was working with the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and they did a cover story on me, and they wanted to also, and it was around this time, so mental health awareness. Wait, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? Or is it just for?
It's coming up in May, but this is soon. But in our mind, as us in the living room, every month is Mental Health Awareness
There you
Month.
go. There you go. So they wanted to take a snippet off of my cover story and put it into the Athletes for Hope. They had something with, I forgot how the exchange happened, and then they just invited me to be part of it, and I was like, absolutely, because I felt like I had a voice that needed to be heard in this capacity based off of my past experiences, and so that's how I got here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh, a long, long time ago, before your playing days, there used to be a big debate in the 20th century about whether our field heroes and sheroes were role models or should be role models. And then when you got to the 21st century, you heard people talking about stuff like just shut up and dribble.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether it's left hand or it's right hand, but are you, Josh, a role model, and what does that mean to you?
Wow, man, this is interesting because I don't. It's funny, man, because maybe this is just speaking from humility here.
Sure.
I never really saw myself as like, dang, like I'm a role model, but I understand that like NFL athletes, track athletes, NBA athletes, soccer, that lots of people look up to them, and like just that in itself carries a lot of weight. And I know with this platform that we have with Chris, Isaac, this platform that we have, it's our responsibility to do good with it, and to inspire the next generation, to inspire people. So yeah, man, I think it's it's actually kind of crazy, man, to see like people who will come up to us and be like, man, like I want your autograph, or I follow you, or man, you see training camp Chris, you know how it is. Like it's amazing, it's humbling, you know. That's one of the best parts about being in professional sports, is seeing like people look up to you, and like it's really a responsibility to do good and to have discussions like this. So yeah, man, I'm trying to do the good and the best I can with it.
So, Chris, is Josh a role model?
Josh is a role model. And Josh is a big role model. And a lot of times it takes I don't know whether it's imposter syndrome. I don't know what it is, but it takes somebody kind of revealing to you, or over time, just your experiences, to realize, well, dang, I am a role model. Like we really are role models. And we have influence. That I have heard and experienced countless stories throughout college and up to now, um, about someone years later coming up to me and telling me how I impacted them in a certain way, and I didn't even know at the time, and that might not have even been my intentions at the time. Right? And so we have a lot of influence, and so with people in our position with influence, using that platform for good, using that platform to discuss the importance of mental health, will inevitably make someone who potentially had a negative view about mental health resources and mental health to change that and to shift it into perspective. Well, if this NFL player, if this guy that I consider tough, or whatever you want to call it, finds mental health important, maybe I should rethink the way I look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac, are you a role model?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I also think I'm a superhero of some kind,
Mm-hmm.
um, of my own life, not anyone else's. If some of my powers helped anyone, then hey, by all means. But I believe that not only a role model, but a superhero, and I encourage everybody else to be superheroes in their own life, because ain't nobody gonna save you. I mean, we can speak all the words. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
can speak all
it's
the
true.
words of encouragement and inspiration we want, but if that person that we're speaking to doesn't have the ability to save themselves and understand themselves, then those words are just merely words and they don't really mean much. So, like, really understanding the importance of helping yourself first so you can help others. Um, Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing about being a role model. Because none as a role model, some people they can be those fake role models and give you fake stuff. Like I don't navigate in that field. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that I come from is authentic, and if I haven't been through it, I can't really talk about it. So like yeah, yeah. I
Well,
hope that answered your question. I'm
it
sorry.
does answer the question, but I want to talk to Coach Isaac now.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about your younger self, and we talked about the young up and coming rising star. But there's somebody out there who might come across our chat in this living room, and they're thinking it's really bad today, and it's going to be a million times worse tomorrow. And I don't even know what the weekend is going to bring. What's one thing, Coach Isaac, we could put on their mind and on their heart to say, you know what, the sun gonna rise tomorrow? What, coach me up, coach.
Yes,
Get me
sir.
just one more day.
Hey, I would say this. Um, Keep believing. Find something to believe in. If it don't even have to be God, if you have a pair of lucky socks that you feel that saved your life and you wear those socks every day, find something to believe in. Believe in yourself. And if you find that something, and if you find that belief in yourself, you would know that tomorrow, the next week, the next month, the next year doesn't exist until you live in the moment. So,
Yeah.
um, just being able, like, I stress that's the biggest thing, especially having a disability, man. Like dealing with so many athletes, like they don't even know that they don't believe in themselves.
Mm.
They I've heard athletes with disabilities say, I would never date someone with a disability. I used to be that person that said that, but I was saying those same words, and it's because I didn't have that self-acceptance. I didn't believe in myself. I thought all these things about myself, and until I started to shift my mindset about how I viewed myself, how I viewed the people around me, the world in front of me, um, that's when things started shifting. So, man, I would encourage everyone that would listen to this just to shift your mindset and start believing in something.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, there's somebody out there in 4-down territory. They in 4-down territory, Chris. They don't have the luxury of punting the ball away and hoping it can be held. So, if we don't grind it out, what can we tell that person to put on their heart? Because they're not necessarily praying or pulling for themselves. It's somebody they care about who won't get help. Chris, what can we tell that caregiver, that family member, that friend, that ally that's going to help them say, you know what, I'm not going to give up on that person because I need them here tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. We can tell the caregiver, the family member, the ally, the strong friend, right, that it's to keep going and to also understand that you don't know how much even just lending an ear or sharing a resource or whatever it might be, what type of impact that has on a person. You don't know who is listening to you or how hard they're listening to you, right? A lot of the time is actually much more impactful than we might let on. And that has to do with society's view of vulnerability or this kind of push, right, that we've been talking about to, at least in my space, to give people their flowers while they're still here. It's the same type of example in terms of you don't have those conversations, invite that person over, lend that hand out, and see what happens.
Josh, it's go time for some people. It's no time for a lot more other people. We need you to go over the top. What do we need to put on the hearts and minds of somebody? Take us over the top that's going to get us to where we need to be for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It's 4th and goal from the 1. It's like we got to score, man. That's real.
That's life, right?
Yeah, right. That's real. I think it's one of those things, man. Like these two said, like it's just like reaching out. It's really like committing yourself also and dedicating your time to someone else. A simple "How are you?" or "Are you okay?" and just things like that. That goes a long way for people. And man, it is tough because at the end of the day, the other person has to do their part too.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much we can do to reach out, to help, but we have to do our part. I feel like if we all can go to bed at night, we all could get some rest if we know, like, dang, I did my part for so and so. Like, I was there for him. I tried to do my best. So I think just keep doing it, keep believing. That's the key.
So we're getting close to the hour. We're rounding third. A couple more quick questions. What's on your playlist, Chris?
Ooh.
You said music was your therapy. What's on your playlist?
Listen. So I want you to think alternative R&B, think alternative pop. So think the Giveons, the Lucky Days,
Okay.
the SZA, the Solanges,
Red Fire?
Okay.
the Brent Faiyazes. Actually, Sauce Walker randomly. I think that's just a Houston thing.
Right.
And lately, the Tizo touchdowns.
Okay.
So that's your producing
Josh,
I
what's
wish.
on your playlist, Josh?
playlist, man. That's a bro. I'm like an open book, man. I like a lot of genres, man. Like I really like R&B, I like house, I like hip hop, I like gospel. I'm in a little bit of both, you know. I mean, everything. So yeah, man. Kate Renata has been a guy. I've been hey, Kate, Chris. Talk about it. Yeah.
That's an old lawyer trick, Josh. You do a little cough or something, and then like you give him more time to think, you know. Like, but every time we see somebody on the track, they got the headphones on.
Yeah.
Now in my day, hey coach, in my day it was a real Walkman. You know, I had real. So what's on your playlist, coach?
Man, hey, I'm an old soul, man. So the one song that I've been listening to that I dedicated last year to was Love and Happiness by Al Green.
Al Green.
That was my granny's favorite song. Yeah. That was my granny's favorite song when she was walking this earth. So last year she passed away in the summertime, and it was funny. Not funny, ironic, because earlier that year I was saying that this song was going to be the song that is going to be played throughout the whole year. At the start of 2023, she passed away July 2023. And right before I won my title, my long jump title at this past World Championships, that was one of the songs that came on. She was still here at the time when I won. She was able to see my gold medal when I came back home, but she passed away like a week later. So I would say Al Green, Love and Happiness. This one song is called The Max Stroll. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Mac the movie with Max Julian.
You know I'm familiar with it. You know I'm familiar with it.
Okay. You know, so if you guys are familiar with Usher, you know he has this one song. Is it Superstar or Number One? It goes like, "This is for you, my number one."
Right.
That song. Well,
Bright lights, big stage.
There you go.
1,000 fans up in a rage.
Hey, let them know. But he had sampled that song from the Max Stroll from the movie The Max. So I've been listening to that, and it just reminds me of just long jumping. Like every time I hear a song, I picture myself long jumping. It's like a dramatic scene for me.
That's dope, bro.
Sure. So right before I got on with you guys in the living room, I was Sade, Couldn't Love You More. But when I think about mental health anthems, you know, that tunnel song, you know, for the high moments, I don't know if y'all know Dwayne Woods. He got a song called Let Go. Dwayne Woods, Let Go. It's going to take you there. And then when
Is it a gospel song?
It's a gospel song.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let Go,
Dwayne Woods. Let Go, Let God. But it's called Let Go.
There you go.
But then the anthem that can really put some on your mind, it's a young artist named Haley Kilgore. And she got a song called Bruised. And one of the lyrics in that, Chris, underneath the armor. You talked about underneath the helmet. Haley Kilgore said, underneath the armor, I'm still bruised. So just check those out. No endorsement, but it's just something on my list. Well, we at that hour where we need to let y'all get back to regular order. We appreciate you taking off the armor and just being real with us, being human beings, being relatable. For all of those people watching and listening, that's who they really are, whether they in uniform or not. They real men. They real people. And they real care about other people, and that's why they're here. So it's time for them to give us, I'm going to go back to my lawyer days. It's time for closing arguments. From Isaac. Give us your closing argument, Isaac.
Man, my closing argument, man. Stay true to yourself, love yourself, and continue loving what you're doing. Don't let anybody take that away from you.
Josh, closing arguments.
Yeah, man. Authenticity is key. Love yourself. Enjoy being yourself, man. And, you know, don't be afraid to fail. And if you have anything that's bothering you, anything that you're not okay, talk to someone. And yeah, man, just enjoy life and enjoy the process of achieving your dreams and goals.
Thank you. My homeboy, Chris, closing arguments.
What's up, man? Closing argument. Your mental health will always be just as important as your physical health. And so let's all be holistic together.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you for stopping by the living room to talk to old Mr. Rawl about some of your journey, as well as the work that you're doing on and off your arenas to help better the human condition for regular human beings and those who are operating at an elite athlete level. But I think we all tried to send home the message today as we've been together. There really is no health without mental health. And because there really is no health without mental health, particularly for the African-American Black community and Black men and boys in particular, come on out the shadows. You can be strong. You could be a man, but there is nothing wrong with saying, I need help if you really do need some help. And let's figure out how we can help together, because we really are stronger together, but we got to come together. We really are stronger together, but we got to come together. And if we come together, a year from now, when we come back and have this conversation, we're going to be having a better conversation. My name is Rawl Andrews, American Psychiatric Association Foundation, working in partnership with Athletes for Hope and my elite athletes, Chris, Isaac, and Josh. And we bid you God bless, God well, and Godspeed.